So in January of 2013, which would have been about a month after Sandy Hook, I started praying. I was praying for the victims in the community of Sandy Hook, and I started finding my prayers going more towards a solution. And so, metal detector crossed my mind. Not terribly effective or efficient. So I started thinking fire alarms. They work great in maintaining order for students. And so how about a fire alarm, something like a fire alarm that detects sound, is able to set off a building-wide alarm and allows structure to go into a very dangerous situation. And that's when the idea of Trinity came to mind. So the reason we chose the name Trinity for the company is several reasons, but the three primary are that the triangle is the strongest geometric shape. So we wanted to identify with a very strong perimeter. The three key stakeholders in an active shooter situation are the building occupants, the offsite building administrators, and the emergency responders. And that's the 3 points on the triangle. And then the communication between those three people has to be consistent, automated, and reliable. And that's what the lines are. By communicating and by linking communication between those three key stakeholders, we're allowing for a faster, more efficient, and a unified response. So to give you some active shooter basics, there has been a 2,000% increase in 16 years in active shooter events. So in the year 2000, there was 1 active shooter event reported in the school. 16 years later, there was 20, and that's a 2,000% increase. To put that into perspective, if you were a teacher in the year 2000, earning $30,000, 16 years later you would be earning $600,000. So that's not generally a raise that most school districts offer their teachers, but it kind of gives you a tangible perspective on how much this has really increased. The shooter has the advantage. He has been planning, prepping, dreaming this event, and now he's ready to execute. So he has the element of surprise going in on his advantage, which is why there are so many casualties and so much chaos in an active shooter event. Oftentimes he'll enter into a target-rich environment, cafeteria, gymnasium, even a classroom or contained like this. You have a target-rich environment. The challenges in an active shooter situation is that the first several minutes from the time the first shot was fired, people are trying to gain situational awareness. Was that, somebody slamming a door, slamming a locker, a glass breaking in chemistry, is somebody throwing some fireworks off? What's exactly going on? People go into the hallway to try to figure this out, and they're risking their lives by doing so. So quick intervention is imperative, trying to, with the teacher down in Texas, I believe, threw the basketball at the student with the gun. So you have to intervene very quickly. They're becoming excessively violent, and they create anxiety in students, teachers, staff members, and they're also a very hot topic politically. So the disadvantage, as I said earlier, is that time is not on our side when the gunman has the element of surprise. So the most deadly time in an active shooter situation is from the time the first shot is fired for the first 5 minutes. FBI studies show that the average response time for an officer to arrive on scene, and that means someone to call 911, a dispatcher to put it into their CAD system, CAD to deploy an officer to arrive on scene, is approximately 9 minutes. And an active shooter event takes less than generally an average 12.5 minutes. So by the time police arrive, the situation is usually resolved or over. Currently, all forms of notification are human initiated, which means someone actually has to reach out and ask for help. This human-initiated notification will contain errors periodically. Witness statements could even be just a matter of seconds, where if a shooter was out in the hallway here and he leaves, goes up to the 2nd floor, by the time we remember our password, can handle our cell phone, and actively get to somebody on 911, somebody upstairs could have already called and said he's on the 2nd floor, where our report comes in and says he's on the 1st floor. Which increases confusion for responding officers. So in order to actively and effectively respond to these situations, notification has to be timely, accurate, and consistent. So enter Trinity as a solution. And what a building that would have Trinity would look like, it would be very similar to a fire alarm. There would be sensors installed throughout a room, and the sensor's job is to continuously scan the environment for the sound of a gunshot. Once it detects the sound of a gunshot, it will trigger the building-wide alarm, which provides immediate notification to building occupants. And that is really what sets us apart from most of our competitors, is that we notify building occupants absolutely first and foremost. A lot of them are focusing on getting emergency responders there quickly, which is good, but they're going to be 2 and 3 minutes away at least. Even if there's a liaison officer in the school building, he probably isn't right where the gunman is shooting. So to let everyone in the building know immediately, you can have an automated response. We've got the building-wide alarm, we've got the fire alarm going off, and then while that's happening, we are dispatching officers with the exact time and very specific location within the school or the building that the shots were fired. This allows for the fast, efficient, and unified response. We're linking communication between the key stakeholders, and you're sending the message that you take security very seriously. You have a strong perimeter around your school, and you're letting the community know that this matters to you, and you're willing to take steps to protect your building. Provides a sense of security for people who are inside the building, and we're also hoping that it will act as a deterrent. Studies show that a house that has any sort of ADT or any sort of signage on them, that they have some security measures, security system, they're less likely to be burglarized. Oh, I did not key my video. If you would give me just a second here, let me pull my video to show you how quickly the system. So this is just an example of what the screen will show to our system on the back end on how quickly a gunshot is responded to. So what I will do is make a selection of a sound. Right up here, you can see that the sound of a gunshot will be played. And then down below here, you'll see how quickly it responds. So right here, this is the notification. That's not the response. This line right here is how quickly it responds. It's almost instantaneous. So I'll let you hear some gunshot sounds inside as well. And this one I have to manually adjust the parameters because this is just a proof of concept. So you can see it's almost instantaneous. And from that, notifications would be going out immediately. So I think because the system was designed on the premise of a fire alarm, it's very important to talk about how effective fire alarms have been. Historically, the last time a person or a student died in a fire was 60 years ago this December in Chicago. Part of that is because people are trained. If you are anywhere and you hear a fire alarm go off, you know exactly what to do. If your shirt was on fire, you would stop, drop, and roll. Or if this room started to fill up with smoke, you would get on your belly and crawl out. This is a trained response that we have. And right now, currently, active shooter situations don't have any of that training. It's absolute chaos because there is no trigger. So oftentimes, because the fire training is so effective, this is almost a muscle memory type of situation. Another example is if you've ever bought anything at Kohl's or a store and you forgot to take off the little trigger and you start to walk out the door and the alarm goes off, you do stop immediately. Those types of alarms cause a response for you to react to. So they're very effective. And the environment with an alarm does not have to be the same environment. You actually take this training with you wherever you go. You're taught how to respond to a fire generally in school, but if you're at the mall and there's a fire, you would respond with the same training. With this type of training, an alarm-initiated response, the target-rich environment would evaporate in a school setting or a business setting. And another example, this doesn't flow real well, but a real good example of a fire alarm notification and how important it is to have the alarm go off where the building occupants are, is if you were in this building and we had a fire and the fire alarm did not go off here but it went off at the fire station, we would be continuing on and the hallway could be burning up and we wouldn't have any idea. And that's what some of the current competitors are doing. And people who do not have gunshot technology, that's what's happening too. They have things going on out there and they aren't notifying everyone. And that's such a crucial, critical piece of it to reduce the number of casualties. So instead of having the alarm go off with the responders, we need to start treating the people actually in the building as the first responders. Police reports say that they have the greatest impact on the number of casualties, and that's how the people, the actual civilians, respond to the active shooter situation. So we are very fortunate. We are entering the 6-month phase of our prototype. And so at this point, we're only 6 months away from having a working system, which will be 5 sensors installed at several beta sites that we've already secured. And they will have the gunshot technology going. It won't be live. Right now we'll just be monitoring the system, and that will be done in December. We have several nice big schools, one towards the Milwaukee area, but what we're looking for is a variety of environments. Schools are generally brick and block structures, and so we're looking for some 2x4 construction, maybe some metal-sided buildings with a concrete floor to really test the system and see how the alarms and the detection responds within different environments. So that's our current status. Like I said, 6 months from prototype or proof of concept, prototype development. At that point, we'll be able to take orders on the system. We'll start merging our API with the existing building security efforts that they've already taken, and that will be their fire alarm. We're hoping to get video included in that, where the alarm system could actually trigger a local or nearby video camera. Lots of other types of security things that I'm not going to mention right now. In order to get through this next 6 months, the funding is very expensive. We already have approximately $80,000 to $100,000 of our personal dollars invested into this, and we have a ways to go. So I'm looking for ideas on sponsorship, financing, any sort of funding that you could perhaps suggest might be effective. We did start a sponsorship program where if you wanted to identify a school or a business that you think would benefit from Trinity, you can fill out one of these cards and give your name and information on it, and you can donate a certain portion of funds to go towards that building. Once that building adopts the system, our company will double your donation. So if you were to give $120 right now, we would use that for development funds, and then when the building that you identified is up and running, we would give them a credit of $240 towards their purchase of the system or their monthly service fees. We had the benefit of some media exposure back in March when we tested the system out at this upcoming shooting range, and that we had a news team, Channel 2000, come and cover it. And from that, and a small little blurb in the Baraboo News Republic, it went to the Associated Press. USA Today called me for an interview, NBC National News. It was in the LA Times, the Washington Times, and actually it even showed up in the Google News in UK. And that tells me that this is a system that the nation is looking for. This is a solution that people are really looking for, something that's easy to implement and effective and will provide some increased safety. So that's the system. That's in a nutshell. Questions?
I guess just to follow up on the financing point, the sponsorship thing is interesting, but I mean, I got to wonder, especially with the positive reception, have you tried just conventional venture financing as an approach?
That's where I'm going this afternoon,
okay.
Actually to the UW Business Center to find a venture capitalist. With the amount of money, like I said, we've got $100,000 invested of our personal funds. This next 6 months of development is $150,000.
Okay.
We'll have FCC approval to get through. We'll have some manufacturing costs, so it's going to be $250,000 by the time we're really ready to take
Sure.
orders. And being somewhat close to being able to do that without giving away some of the company,
Sure.
It's enticing.
Yeah.
But I do feel that having a partner to help this go along might be beneficial.
Sure.
Strictly from a marketing point of view, your presentation is very thorough, very comprehensive, and very nicely done.
Thank you.
You kind of buried the lead a little bit with the stories, then the uptake you got from the Baraboo thing, because that can attract a lot of very positive attention to your story, because you kind of set up the need in the front.
Okay.
But if you could, one, if you didn't want to do the fact that you were in LA Times, etc., if you still want to do it at the end, show us those clippings on screen.
Oh, okay.
Because
so you're saying that's valuable to put more towards the beginning?
Well, I'm suggesting you set up the need, and then that's a proof point. Oh. This little blurb, I mean, if you could show me that little 2-inch column from Baraboo, no one ever reads at Times,
yeah.
and how it went to London, because of human interest, you have now got me as a potential investor, and I'm not, by the way, sorry. But you've got my attention in that, holy crap, the market is interested in this. Consequently, I should be interested in everything you have to say subsequent to that.
Okay, so don't say that to the end.
That's a human interest lead.
Didn't think of that.
Probably go toward the front.
That's very good advice, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
It also offers a little bit of, not validation, but credit.
Yeah, well, LA Times is.
Right, those are a
That's
little
pretty-
bit bigger than.
Yeah,
Right.
I know.
And,
That's pretty cool.
whenever you get that type of stuff, also, sorry, do you have the video that the station shot?
I do, Put it on there.
Cut it, just to visual aids like that.
Okay.
And embed it in your PowerPoint so you don't have to go outside of your PowerPoint.
Oh, okay,
So that you can hit auto run and it's there.
okay.
Yeah, great stuff though, I mean,
Yeah.
very, very cool.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, hi. I'm actually a K-8 certified teacher, worked K-12, higher ed, so I'm just thinking, as you're saying some of these things, I'm like, have you gone to any of those schools maybe that are doing the K-8 certifications, the K-12 certifications, just as another possible way to say, hey, would you like to be a part of this? And maybe they have some funding, because usually universities or colleges have a little bit of funding. I'm just thinking that might be another route to take, that, hey, we're trying to train your teachers to be better educators.
Oh.
Do you have any kind of funding, to help bring something like this to your school?
So you're saying like go actually to the school or
Like
to
go
the
to the
colleges
school
that
of
train the
health,
schools?
or go to the university that has the school of health, or the school of education
Right,
department,
that's what I
and seeing, something, I don't know, that might be a direction to take, since, the education, a lot of that education is going to be going to them.
Yes.
They might take an investment and say, oh, we want to be at the forefront
Okay.
of this.
Well, and what we have kind of found is that schools are not going to have a problem funding this because of all the grant money, so
Sure.
they'll be able to buy the system, but there isn't a lot of dollars assigned for development,
Yep.
but still possibly going to them, that's a good idea too. Okay, thank you.
One point that I want to point out is it would be good to see more of a comparison, like a stronger comparison between you and your competitors.
Okay,
I heard one little quip in there. You just said that they don't do this, but I'd hit it a little stronger to say what sets you apart. But then,
advice.
so my one question to you though, because right now, this is on the top of a lot of people's minds. It's causing a very strong reaction. What are your thoughts about like crowdfunding and reaching out that way?
That was one of my questions for you as an audience. It's gone both ways. This is business to business, so some people have said crowdfunding isn't going to work, but other people have said you're reaching the heart of parents.
That's the angle that I'm seeing, is that there's a lot of people that care about this and they want this.
Okay.
And if they realize that by making some sort of donation or contribution, they can help this cause along quicker.
Okay.
If you can tell that story and get them engaged, because like I said, there's a lot of energy and a lot of very strong emotions and feelings here, that it might be worth looking at tapping into that.
Oops. Sorry, just to like kind of piggyback on that, that's an interesting idea, but physical cards are only going to scale so far. If you could make a way for like a school community or a PTA to organize digitally, $250,000 is not that much money if you can reach, any volume of people. And
Okay.
you get 10% of a school to put $10 in and do that at, you don't have to do that at too many schools.
Without giving away much either.
Right.
They're just helping you because they care about what you're doing.
So, and that was the other thing, because a lot of times the crowdfunding requires rewards and things like that to be sent. Do you think it's valuable enough that we say we would donate back to your school, or is a parent going to be willing to give $100 if they know that school will get $200 back, or what do you think?
I think the best thing to do is to test things out and reach out and talk to people.
Okay.
It could be enough of just having a recognition. Your name is on some sort of plaque or what have you.
Okay, good, thank you.
I might have missed it. Did you mention the Madison Metropolitan School District, and they just had apparently extensive conversations about this subject?
I did not know. I did not mention Madison. I had not heard about Madison. I knew Kenosha purchased a system from New Mexico.
I don't know if Madison hasn't purchased, but it was all in the news the other day about the school board approving or moving forward on this type of idea.
They received
with that type of system, right?
They received grant money, and they had already said the name of the company. I was going to question if it was you guys, but I didn't realize you're in beta right now, so I think
Right.
it's a company that's
Right.
already
I think
established.
Kenosha did Eagle, the system Eagle out of New Mexico. So I didn't hear about Madison also.
That might
I just
be
heard
the
it was
same one.
I
Wisconsin
think it
school.
is the same one.
Yep, I remember, I was thinking New Mexico.
Okay.
Right, and I like their system, and this was another question I wanted to ask you, and possibly as a previous teacher too. Eagle will set off, I don't know that they set off the building-wide alarm, but I would assume that they have that ability. They do notify the emergency responders. What I really don't care for, and I'm personally against, is the door locking mechanism. That you have sent students out into the hallway, or you've stepped out just briefly to catch another teacher as they're walking by, and the alarm goes off and you're locked out of your classroom. And so that is something our system will not do, but other systems do. So I don't know if that'd be valuable or...
So I think that begs the question that the alarm is extremely valuable, but it's a very small portion of what needs to happen in order for this to be a successful system.
Mm-hmm.
So are you trying to dictate training of teachers, and what is the stop, drop, and roll version of a gunshot alarm? Like, or are you just trying to provide the system and letting schools develop that internally? Because I think that may be the driving factor in people purchasing a system, is who has the best training that goes with it and the best follow-up.
Most schools currently have some sort of protocol in place already, and generally it's ALICE training, which is alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate. So and I've gone through those drills at schools and at Tanger Mall and things like that, and what happens is you're still gaining situational awareness, and then once you know what's going on, you go to your desk phone and you pick it up and you call the central office and you say, I have shots fired, all the while your students are trying to use the belt that they had on them that day to lock the doors or board the doors, barricade with chairs and things like that. So we're providing the information so you can go into those prearranged plans already. We're not going to be into training the procedure because there are a lot of companies that already do that, although that's something we could offer. But there do seem to be a lot of schools that already have these things in place that they're practicing with their students. We're just providing the notification components.
So getting an endorsement from those companies that do the training would be a huge aspect of getting you, again, legitimized in the field.
Yeah, I never thought of reaching out to Alice. There is one portion of the notification that we're looking at connecting with to provide a more full package.
Maybe you mentioned this, or maybe, I don't know, but does your system detect any type of gun?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and we have it's 99.998% accuracy on gunshot recognition, and our false positive is near zero right now.
I'm not a gun person, but like silencers, no?
We did a point blank test and it picked that up, and we have not tested a silencer, although we do have someone with a silencer. We're going to be taking that up to a local school and actually testing it in the school.
Okay, I have
to
one
see
more
the
question, I'm
silencer.
really sorry.
No, that's
so
okay.
You know how in a fire, if you have fire alarm, someone can pull it?
Yes.
Do you guys have anything that people can pull?
No, that is the beauty of our system. It is completely fully automated. We're considering a panic button, but a panic button will lead for error.
That's what I was.
Humans out there.
Yeah. When you mentioned the silencer, the one thing we have seen in active shooter situations is that they are kind of there for the pomp and circumstance that they want to create. So everybody's asked about the silencer, so it's a good question. Yes.
Are you limiting this just to schools? Okay. 'Cause I don't know if I heard anything else in your presentation about other companies. Yes, there's funding for schools, and yeah, you could get parents rallied around an issue like that, but corporations, on the other hand, do have funding, and it doesn't have to go through as much
Right, like,
discussion
well,
and red tape. And
Google had a shooting on their campus.
YouTube.
right.
So
So I haven't, I don't follow it probably the way you do, with the industry. This is what you're doing, but I don't know if there are any other companies that are out there that have come out and said, well, hey, we've adopted this security measure, so we feel that much more confident that if an event happens in our building, that our employees will be safe, or the people that are in the building.
That was a question that I had written down to pose as business owners. Are there other locations you think that would have already had conversations about we need to increase our technology, or would this be just malls? Yeah, movie theaters. We're going to be testing at Marcus Theaters in St.
Government
Marie.
facilities, post offices, going postal is not.
Right.
Airports.
How do you do it in a
But
movie
banks,
theater?
yes. Banks is another one we had thought of. I'm sorry?
Oh,
Why would
yeah.
you do it in a movie theater?
We're testing
Gunshots.
that.
It's
Well,
like-
there's a very significant difference. If you actually looked at the sound waves of a gunshot, a live one is very identifiable versus recorded sounds.
Can you talk a little bit about your, the path, I guess, in regards to the microphones that you're using? Like how many have to be in a room? And is it patented or is this?
We're working on a patent.
Okay.
And we're assuming that 75 feet is going to be our coverage, but that's also part of what the beta sites are going to be serving our purpose. We have had some positive closed door tests where we had them out in the hallway. You may not necessarily need to have one in each and every single classroom, but some weapons, like a .22 rifle does not positively detect inside a classroom, but an AK-47 does, or an AR-15. So we have to fine tune our parameters to be able to see if we have to have one in every classroom or every room, or if those parameters would make us subject to more false positives, in which case it would have to be in every single room.
So you're talking about Eagle and how they lock down doors, and it sounds like there's a lot of installation costs there. I'm wondering what your installation looks like, and could you have something as simple as just plugging in a unit?
Right. Eagle, actually, their sensors are wireless, but their door locking mechanisms would be more installation. Right now, we will be selling the wired and the wireless devices. However, they will need power over Ethernet. The wireless devices needed a lot of battery power, and that was going to be a lot more costly for the sensors. So we are going to be looking at, it's an ugly term, but like a wall wart, to be able to plug the wireless ones in. The wired ones will be power over Ethernet, which is low voltage wires, so it won't need a certified electrician to be installing, but we will still need cables run, and hoping that the maintenance department can handle that so people don't have to go out for cabling, but we're not sure.
And then is there a head-end unit, like in the back office that's doing the analysis?
Little tiny Raspberry Pi.
There's a lot of breadth here possible. You have schools to government facilities to
Church.
big corporations, churches, you name it. And that's part of the problem. It's like, out of all these possible people to market to, it's incredibly broad.
Yes.
Have you done niching down to say, this is our ultimate sweet spot? If we can get in there one test bed, that's going to open up a huge amount of things. Because here's the thing, if you want to get in schools, school districts, my God, the levels of crap that has to be involved there to be part of the spec for
Right.
the new school. Well, and that's another question too, retrofit versus new installation. Have you done that kind of analysis to say, where's our best species of fish and what pond are they in?
That conversation could take till lunch because it is very broad. What we're actually thinking about is going a distributor route, which already has existing customers like banks and other hotels, other facilities that they already have a customer relationship that are looking for additional security measures. And so getting our system available to them will allow them to start installing the system in a multitude of environments. And then I think with our boots on the ground, we would be focusing at schools, and because they do take a lot more finessing and a lot more time, but that would still allow the system to be installed, revenue to be generated, and we can finesse the schools and walk them through it, because it's near and dear to my heart to be in schools, but we have to have the money coming in too. And I think, well, just from that media exposure, I had over 24 distributors from the whole entire nation call me to see if they could start carrying the product. So that's kind of what we're thinking, but I'd be really interested in hearing your response to that.
Well, I don't have the data to be able to point to say this is the way to do it, and I don't think there's necessarily one perfect way, but there's one fast way, and that is YouTube has a shooting on their campus, they're freaked out, they have the wherewithal to write a check that day and say, get this now.
Not just the wherewithal, the ability.
Right.
And whereas we're talking about these public entities, I mean, within that are state, local run governmental thing, you mentioned the post office, you're going to get all mucked up in red tape. So if you're talking to, publicly traded companies or privately owned companies, he's right.
Well,
If they want it, they'll just write you a check.
YouTube blesses it, Google now has a reason to go for it, as does every other company that can make that quick decision and has frankly had these C-level conversations about what if it happens to us?
Well, and then let them sponsor schools. Let them sponsor
Yes.
schools.
Well,
That's
but
another-
prove it, the proof
Yeah.
point, the test bed, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 9 o'clock on the dot. I'm on time. Diana, I feel like you were mouthing something to me, but I missed
Yeah,
it. I can't
well,
get
just,
it.
we like to conclude the conversation with what as a community can we do for you? Well, how can we help you?
You could help get the word out that this is an available piece of technology that's going to be coming. As long as 6 months feels to me, it really is relatively soon. So if I could, do you mind if I just pass these around? It's just a postcard that kind of gives our website and some contact information. I won't pass around the sponsorship cards just out of respect for you. If you're interested in one, they're up here. Pens are up here. Spreading the word, maybe giving me some opportunities or some information on other presentations that I could be giving. And beta sites. If you know of any place like a bank or something that might be interested in being on our beta site in December, that'd be really awesome.
As always, there's more coffee in the back. Feel free to stick around and network or keep chatting or ask Stacey some more questions if you have them. But thank you guys for coming. No 1 million cups next week, and then we start in May on the
Yeah, and let's make sure that, I mean, one of the other things that we can do, not just for your business, but for everybody that's come through here, is when you see these videos pop up, whether it's through LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or whatever,
share them.
just share it, like it, share it, comment on it, move it on. That's really, I mean, you get 20 some odd people in the room on a regular basis, and, you know, we really can touch thousands, honestly. So that's, you know, that's a way that we can do that as well. But again, keep sharing that, and, you know, like Julian's talking about, we don't want people showing, well, I hope nobody shows up here next week, it's July 4th. Because we won't be here either. But yeah.
Get that on the live stream. Do
Yeah.
not show up here.
Yeah. But yeah, just really push that new location down there at Starting Block. Let our friends in college know that regularly attend or might attend, you know, that it's not going to be here. So.
Andrew, thanks for hosting all of these.
Yeah.
All right.
Jane.
So will this room be open later today?